Hello and welcome to another TLDR UK video. For a channel that for years spoke about little other than Brexit, we've been notably quiet on the topic for a while now. So with Brexit, as Johnson would say, done, we thought it was worth checking out how things are going so far. So we googled it and found a number of articles helpfully filling us in, telling us how businesses are not only surviving Brexit but thriving because of the UK's departure. The Sun's article tells us about Anthony Pickering, president of Welsh electrical design and manufacturing company Control Techniques. We hear about how they're able to continue trading with 77 countries due to their early planning as well as the work conducted with suppliers to ensure that trade could continue. According to Anthony, this preparation allowed trade to continue smoothly and allowed them to grow yet further. We also hear from Martin Stemp, owner of RS Aqua, who used a government grant to help with the new customs procedures, with Martin also emphasising the benefit of preparation. Finally, we hear from Alison and Mahari of Lilypads, a sustainable hygiene brand who use the government's online tools to ensure that they're able to continue trading with manufacturers across Europe. So great, turns out that things aren't as bad as we thought. These businesses are doing great. If only everyone was this prepared, took advantage of the government's generous grants and online assistance. We wanted to learn more though, so we turned to articles from the Metro and the Mail. The Metro told us about, oh hey there again Martin from RS Aqua, and it's not just Martin who makes a reappearance. Our mate from Wales, Anthony's here too, alongside Dee Baker, who prepared for Brexit using the government's tools. The Mail's article also contains stories about RS Aqua, Aqua and Rock, and Control Techniques, which is weird. Did someone copy someone's homework, or is Anthony Pickering just some huge celebrity that I've missed? Well, it turns out that if you scroll to the top of each of these articles, the answer might be a little more simple. The Sun's article includes a telling notice, letting us know that it's a sponsored article. The sponsor is revealed to be none other than the UK government, who it turns out also sponsored the Metro and Mail stories. And that's not where this stops either. If you live in Orkney, you might happen to open your local paper and find, oh wait, that's our mate Anthony again, who yet again is happy to share the news of his flat-out orders due to Brexit preparation. He's joined by the ladies from Lilypads again, and new guy Kevin Stevens from Woodland Group, who you won't be surprised to hear are also thriving post-Brexit. In fact, he seems to think that everyone needs to chill out on Brexit, saying that everyone just needs to adjust to these changes. In fact, it's not even just the good people of Orkney who might have seen this story. We found the exact same story in the Auburn Times, Campbelltown Courier, Argyllshire Advertiser, Arran Banner, Gloucester Review, Brecon and Radnor Express, Surrey and Hants News, the Courier, the Inverness Courier, and the Bromsgrove Standard. Again, the appearance of all of these identical stories isn't a coincidence either. They're all sponsored by the UK government. Shout out to the Gloucester Review, Brecon and Radnor Express, and the Surrey and Hants News, all of whom don't actually mention the government sponsored the article, besides a tiny sponsored icon that doesn't say who sponsored it, and when clicked on, 404s. Nice work disclosing your sponsored content there. Very classy. So it seems that the government is pretty determined to make sure there are good news stories about Brexit. In fact, so determined that they're prepared to pay to put them there, making sure that readers hear about the successful businesses who are thriving, somewhat implying that any businesses who are struggling either didn't prepare enough or just haven't accepted the reality of Brexit yet. Now, we're so far off track here that we're talking about media regulations and the issues that arise from big companies monopolising and devaluing local newspapers, but I'm not trying to say that the government shouldn't be allowed to buy space in newspapers. The government paying for adverts in newspapers isn't totally unheard of, but these ones are pretty deceptive. But just read one of them for yourself and tell me that it doesn't read like a standard news article. They're certainly designed to pass as standard Sun, Metro and Mail articles, potentially tricking people into believing that Brexit's going swimmingly, which, whether it's true or not, is pretty shady, especially when public funds are being used to push a partisan agenda in the media. Anyway, when someone pays money to try and convince me something, I normally want to work harder to find out what it is they're trying to obscure. So what's the reality of this situation? How is Brexit actually affecting businesses thus far? Well, it's obviously a mixed bag. You can't generalise about businesses because their interaction with Europe and preparation levels will vary significantly from company to company. Some exporters certainly are struggling though. Data published by the British Chambers of Commerce a couple of weeks ago painted a stark picture, saying that 49% of UK-based exporters were suffering problems as they failed to adapt. It seems that because of these difficulties and the increased friction on the UK-EU border, that some companies have just decided to stop or reduce trade with the EU. In fact, reports from January show that exports from British ports to the EU fell by 68% in 2021 compared to 2020. And while data hasn't emerged yet for February, it's certainly a troubling start. It's not just boats that are carrying fewer UK goods either. According to data provided by the Road Haulage Association, there's been a dramatic drop in the number of lorries travelling by ferry or through the Channel Tunnel. This is something that the RHA supposedly reported to the Cabinet Office Minister Michael Gove in a 1st of February letter, where the Chief Executive also bemoaned the fact that this drop in trade is exactly what they'd warned them about many times on the lead up to Brexit. Warnings that the government supposedly ignored. Speaking to The Observer, Burnett also highlighted another major issue: the number of lorries returning to the EU empty. The total number of lorries might have dropped dramatically, but even the ones that are going from the UK to EU are often empty. According to the RHA chief, that's because UK businesses aren't ready to give hauliers goods, or have decided to temporarily or permanently stop exporting to the EU. Burnett is clearly frustrated with the government's response though, saying that Michael Gove is the master of extracting information from you and giving nothing back. The government doesn't agree with this though, insisting that we do not recognise the RHA figure provided on exports. We'll continue to work constructively with the RHA as we adjust our new relationship with the EU and seize the opportunities of Brexit. Also, to the government's credit, just because goods aren't being transported by road or boat doesn't mean that goods aren't still moving to the European Union. But admittedly, air cargo is also down year on year, so it's hard to see how that transport would be happening. So it seems like there might still be a lot of work ahead for the government, because while Johnson described these issues as teething problems, it seems that not everyone agrees. Policy Director at Make UK had a slightly spicier take, remarking that the last month has been like Dante's fifth circle of hell for importers and exporters, who have been struggling to move goods and stock due to new red tape brought in by Brexit. Ultimately, it's this red tape which seems to be troublesome. As Johnson was pleased to announce at the end of last year, the Brexit deal meant that there wouldn't be any additional tariffs, but non-tariff barriers are proving to be a major issue. Businesses may not have to worry about additional tariffs, but they are having to complete cumbersome checks and fill out tons of paperwork, with these hurdles not only making things more expensive, but also slower. Especially when, due to COVID, you can't really get the team together to A, learn how to properly complete the paperwork, and B, actually fill it out. Conducting a quiz over Zoom is hard enough. Imagine having to learn how to fill out a bunch of new customs declarations, detailing the precise measurements and attributions of your shipment of England's finest cheese. But as businesses get more accustomed to the new normal of import-export declarations, arguably some of these issues will resolve themselves. Slowness is a real issue in certain industries though, with the Food and Drink Federation warning that some fresh food exporters are facing an existential threat, saying in February that deliveries that had previously taken a couple of days are now taking 5 days. The same problem obviously applies to one of Brexit's most contentious topics, fish. That's because 68% of British fish goes to the EU, and that's an even higher 98% when it comes to mussels. That means that UK fishermen need to get easy and quick access to Europe, or they'll have to find new customers very quickly to prevent their stock from going rotten. Johnson seemingly backs calls to promote Brits to eat their own local catches. But as a nation of pretty fussy eaters, Brits aren't huge fish fans, especially when it comes to some of the more unusual seafood that the UK lands a lot of. As such, we're seeing a lot of concern in the fishing industry, with the chief exec of the Shellfish Association warning MPs that you could not have written it any worse if you wanted to for the industry. The consensus seems to be from manufacturers that they didn't have enough time to prepare for all this. Despite what Anthony Pickering has to say on the issue, manufacturers only had a handful of days to read through the Brexit deal and work out how it impacted them. Which, according to Made UK, means that while large exporters had some idea of what they were facing on the 1st of January, they didn't have all of the detail until the 1,400-page deal was published on the 26th of December. As I said though, the government is insisting that these are just teething issues, and that they're working with Europe to prevent further delays. They also insist that they're offering more assistance to businesses in the UK to help them deal with the red tape, as well as continuing to insist that in the long term there will be real benefits to being outside the EU. They also say that these efforts are paying off already, with George Eustice remarking that 55% of trucks are being held up for less than an hour, and 90% less than 3 hours. Numbers they want to see improve yet further, with increased support from the UK government and continued negotiation with the EU. It has to be remembered, however, that Brexit is not solely an economic endeavour. While for some the economy was the main reason for backing it, including the ability to craft new trade deals with other countries, a process which will take far, far longer in the COVID age, for others, including arguably Johnson himself, Brexit just isn't about the economics, it's about the politics. And therefore for some, the economic hit and issues at the border are simply seen as undesirable, but worth it. Obviously the government will be trying to minimise the economic fallout, but only time will tell how successful these efforts end up being. But let's hope for business owners, other than the ones featured in the government's own articles, things change quickly. What do you think of this whole situation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified every time we release a new video. Special thanks to our Patreon backers who make videos like this one possible. And if you want to see your name at the end of videos, then you too can back us on Patreon. The link to that's in the description.